This is not another conversation about maximizing your pretty privilege and hyperfixating on all the people who are so jealous of you. This is for those who have survived interpersonal violence and forced humility due to other people's emotionally irresponsibility and envy. I want to have a productive conversation for survivors on this platform that is not of me hiding behind images of popular influencers, never showing my face and talking about how much prettier I am than everybody else. So, let's jump into it. I never understood envy as a sin. I never understood any emotion as a sin. When I used to hear from my elders and the church folk about how envy and other forms of emotions were sins, I never got it until I started to experience and really witness the violations that difficult emotions could cause, and just how far people would be willing to go to consolate their difficult feelings. Now, everything that's needed to be said about pretty privilege has already been said, so I don't need to re-educate you. I just want to break down the reality of what you've been experiencing navigating these interactions. Now, for a lot of us when we were kids, we were not encouraged to have healthy emotional and physical boundaries. In fact, we were taught that in order to be considerate, we must be responsible for people's feelings in a way that was beyond what was necessary or fair, beyond what was healthy. We're taught to shrink. And we also learn from our peers that, and maybe even our siblings, that having something that another person doesn't makes us a problem. And emotional maturity and responsibility is also something that wasn't taught. So when you're navigating insecure paradigms, you're experiencing a paradigm of a chronic need for external validation and security from external sources. And if you are placed on a pedestal for any reason at all, people expect you to be the one to perform that emotional labor for them, to be the one to validate them in some way or another. And anything that does not soothe their wound is invalidating, which means that if you trigger the wound, you are invalidating. If someone finds you to be attractive in any kind of way, whether you're physically attractive, whether you have access to something that they'd like to have access to, so they want to have access to you, whatever it may be, something that makes you shiny to whoever is witnessing you. If they have you on a pedestal, they expect that you make them feel good. They expect that you do not mirror to them, even though that's how reality works. They expect that you do not mirror to them the way that they feel towards themselves and what it is that they are trying to escape when they are seeking validation from you. This is how they exist in their paradigm. A paradigm is a model or pattern or framework of how something is understood or done. The way that we see and approach our world. It shapes what we believe to be normal, possible, or true. And within a paradigm, there are rules that keep it alive. In a wounded, insecure paradigm, there are things like scarcity, codependence, fragmentation, and control. And within that, there are rules for the people who exist in these paradigms. There are rules for social hierarchies, for instance, that offers people that false sense of control. For instance, if you are a handsome male, you must be a savior with no boundaries. You must make people feel chosen. If you are a female and you're pretty, you must not exist for yourself, but the people around you who need to be validated by you. And people need to be validated by men and women in different ways. So if you're a woman and an insecure man desires you, you must not reject him, because to him you are on a pedestal. He views himself as small, and your rejection mirrors to him what he already believes about himself, that he's not enough. And there may be people who present themselves in a vulnerable way, like an underdog who's never chosen, the nice guy who's never given a chance, or they could be more grandiose, very loud and, self-important, and just determined, knows for sure that you will choose him. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's confident. It means that he's putting on the fake it till you make it walk. If you're an attractive woman and another woman wants to be your friend, but she's insecure, there are conditions for your relationship that require you to shrink or tone it down so she doesn't feel as small as she already does. Because if you're truly a kind person, if you're truly a girl's girl, then you wouldn't make her feel insecure. You must have no boundaries and no identity of your own, except for the one that has been assigned to you that matches everyone else around you in the friend group, so that you don't stand out and so that they don't feel threatened. Now, there's a lot of lack of personal responsibility, a lack of emotional responsibility in these paradigms. And how you respond to these rules determines how you will be treated, how you will be handled in that paradigm. So there's something referred to as the drama triangle, and that involves the victim, the rescuer, and, well, the prosecutor, but I prefer to acknowledge the villain. So there's a victim who's been done wrong, who's being harmed, who is accustomed to being victimized. It may be a genuine victim, or it may be someone who tells themselves a victim story. Woe is me, nobody ever chooses me, nobody ever picks me, whatever victim narrative they have. Then there is the rescuer or savior. These are the people who give everybody validation. They show up for people in their time of need. They're there to rescue and save and heal and validate the victims. And then there's the villain. This is a person who, likes the idea of being a bully. They choose to be a villain. They choose to enter their villain era, where it's not so much just they're okay with setting boundaries even if people are upset, but they are fully content with using others to get their needs met. The villain also doesn't have to be an actual villain. The villain could be an assigned villain in someone's paradigm and someone's narrative. If someone, let's say a vulnerable narcissist, or someone who feels really comfortable in their victim narrative, they've never been chosen, they're never given a chance, whatever that may be, they expect whoever they have on a pedestal to be the rescuer or the savior. They expect to be validated. They expect to be shown love. They expect a person to show up as a supplement to all the things that they do not feel that they have or can provide themselves. And when you are on that pedestal and they expect you to be the savior and you don't save them, then you become the villain. You're either supposed to save them by making them feel chosen, dating them, choosing them, loving them, sleeping with them, giving them an opportunity, or make yourself small, shrink yourself, downplay yourself, talk bad about yourself, make self-deprecating jokes, not invest as much into your looks, not go for the opportunities, not share your good news, because then you would be making them feel small. Your role as the savior is to help them avoid difficult emotions that arise in them when they are around you. And if you don't fulfill that role, then you easily become the villain. And villains must be punished or eradicated. This is all a part of that control. And there are people who respond with physical violence, and then there are those who respond with emotional and psychological violence. It could show up and be both, but those who are more emotionally violent and manipulative like to weaponize your own guilt and empathy against you. They like to make you feel as though there is something you are doing that is wrong or harming them when you do not save them, or when you do not play small and shrink yourself, compromise and settle. And this is what leads to echoing. You can go and check my other video on echoing versus codependent people pleasing to get more information on that. Now, as we've already mentioned, this can show up in different kind of relationships. This can show up in romantic partnerships where there is a partner who wants to humble you, will compete with you, which is a real thing. There are people who are in partnerships, romantic partnerships, with people they are competing with, and that was something that was extremely bizarre for me to experience when I did, especially when there are people who you you perceive to have more power than you. Maybe someone is a man and you're a woman. Maybe someone grew up financially supported with a healthy family and you don't understand what it is that they're envying within you, but they see a vulnerability within you and they want to keep you there in that identity that they view as beneath them, so they feel safe in their position in the social hierarchy. And when you show or indicate that there's more to you and that there's more that you're capable of and you have high potential and you are attractive and opportunities flow to you and you're really good at receiving, well, then they may try to humble you to sabotage the opportunities that come your way. And for some of us, this conditioning started in our family system, where some of us were scapegoated in our families. Maybe there were those of us who had certain capabilities or gifts, either athletically, academically, or whatever else, socially in our families, and our siblings didn't, or our cousins didn't. Maybe there was something about our body that was different than our families. Maybe we had certain family members, or even a mother, a father, an auntie who was insecure about their body and consistently compared themselves to yours and even compared their children to you. And in this family dynamic, they use a lot of emotional manipulation to make it seem as though you would only be loyal if you passed on opportunities that came for you that your siblings or other family members didn't get to have. If you didn't date someone who made your mother or your cousin or whoever else insecure. Yes, it gets that deep for people. Whenever you achieved something or got accolades at school, you didn't share them with everyone around you, because what makes you so special? There was a rule that everyone must be equal and no one must be special. And to them, equality didn't mean fairness. It didn't mean justice. It meant that you would shrink yourself to fit into small containers. But this is not about them. This is about you. If you were already conditioned to apologize or play small to accommodate those around you, be it your family or your peers, this programming does not dissipate on its own. It continues to manifest itself until you choose to stop holding the burden, responsibility, and expectation that this is just the way life has to be, that this is just the way that the world operates, or that you are not worthy of better relationships. Because who do you think you are to be so special? That you wouldn't have to struggle like everyone else? That you wouldn't have to endure struggle love like everyone who looks like you? That you wouldn't have to settle, that you wouldn't have to tolerate, that you wouldn't have to suffer until hopefully reaching a promised land for all of your suffering as a reward. And if you're a highly sensitive person who feels obligated to empathize with everything and everyone, you might settle because you fear being judged or judgy and proving them right. That is a fawn response. So you end up subjecting yourself to experiences where you're being humbled or unfairly, improperly compensated, or even humiliated, so that someone feels good seeing you fall. You're too perfect. I need to see you be imperfect. You're too big. I need to see you feel small. The way you walk is too proud. I need to see you trip. And because it's in you to be open and available and accessible to any and everyone, to open your heart to everyone, you ignore the red flags in your environments and in your relationships, in your friendships. You allow yourself to be surrounded by lifestyle choices that don't align with your values, constantly compromising yourself, teaching the universe that this is how you should be treated. Being someone who has values or value that you do, who does not have that matched and is not adequately compensated because you tolerate less than what you are supposed to. Being tolerant and humanizing to other people does not mean that they get to have unconditional access to you. And it also does not mean that you compromise and shrink your values to match their decisions that do not even honor them, because we all have a choice. And you either inspire them to rise to the occasion, or you trigger them so that they can recognize something within themselves that needs to change. Either way, you honoring yourself is of service to everyone. It's not enough to have a boundary that exists. Everybody tells you to have boundaries, but it's not enough to just have a boundary, because insecure people don't give a fuck. Entitled people do not care. And the survival of their paradigms require you to conform. But you must hold your value and not conform. No matter how scary something looks, no matter how threatening their judgment feels, no matter what is presented in front of you as an undesirable manifestation, you hold it, because what they're doing and the way that they are showing up in your reality has nothing to do with them, but the paradigm you've been operating in, where you could be of high value and not be matched and not be compensated and be humbled and be harmed because of your relationship with your own emotions and other people's, because you feel responsible for other people's emotions. And that is not your fault. It is the conditioning, but now it is your responsibility to change it. So you must hold it. You must hold and honor your value, because all of the challenges that are showing up are coming from your own consciousness, your own belief, and your own understanding or lack thereof of your value. So if you believe that people will be upset when you reject them, or people will be upset when you don't tell a self-deprecating joke, then you will continue to align yourself with experiences where you are held responsible for the insecurities of the people around you, and you are expected to honor their need for validation over your own value. If you believe that having pretty privilege or whatever the fuck else makes you susceptible to abuse, makes you susceptible to harm, makes you responsible for other people feeling more secure around you, then that is what will be mirrored back to you. So if you're trying to shift to a new paradigm and a non-supportive thought comes up or doubt comes up, it is okay to show yourself grace, but treat that thought and that doubt as if what it is suggesting is not even an option that you would allow in your true, real, honorable paradigm. So there's no need to fear it, because when it comes up, you simply say, I do not accept you. No fighting, debate, or explaining necessary, required, or even allowed. When you are able to confront this battle within yourself, when you are able to deal with these things within yourself, then you can be able to experience the shift and the change in your external reality and the relative world, because now you know how to show up and teach the world what is the new belief, what is the new norm for you. It can be so easy to slip into the everybody hates me because I am so pretty victimhood. Because yes, I'm not going to gaslight you. In many cases, that is the truth. People are really fucking entitled and insecure. And some people need to believe in the narrative about you, or about pretty people, attractive people, rich people, wealthy people, whatever. Some people need to hold on to that narrative self. Some people need to uphold the villain in their story so that they don't have to do any real work, so that they don't have to be confronted with those things that they want to distract themselves from. But there are healthy people who don't move or operate this way. But the question is, do you want to align to them, and do you actually want them in your life? For some people on this platform, it's easy to talk about the haters all day because it's flattering and it's a form of validation for them. They like the drama, they like the chaos, and they even feel valuable being surrounded by problematic people who pedestal and hate them. And for others, they just need to treat the platform as a venting space for commiserating. But for those people who value their peace, who desperately need their peace back, especially those who have experienced genuine violence, boundary violations, assault, betrayal, you don't find these dehumanizing experiences flattering. You never needed the validation. And you no longer care to be the emotional dumping ground, the pretty punching bag, the cool, easygoing girl's girl, just to maintain connection with immature, emotional cowards, especially those who need to politicize or think piece their way out of emotional accountability. You can choose to opt out or unsubscribe from those experiences, or you can choose to stay there. It is your choice. Now, if you'd like to move forward and feel what it's like to shift these energies, recognize what's keeping you there, and begin to apply this new way of being into your life today, I have 2 portals for you. The first one is my free audio course, Are You Loyal to Struggle?, where we begin to break down what marginalized and undervalued paradigms you have been subscribing to and what keeps you there so that you can finally break free. The second is the Devaluation Detox, which is an audio course where we take it even further and deprogram what has kept you accessible to exploitative and devaluing circumstances, relationships, and financial realities that do not honor your value. Trust in yourself to make an aligned decision. If you feel called, do not waste another second in the outdated and old devaluing paradigm. You do not need to apologize for who you are and what you have. You do not have to be subjected to experiences where you are humiliated, punished, and humbled by the likes of people who do not know how to experience and show love, who choose not to be inspired, or at the very least respect your space and move the fuck on. Despite what you have been told, you do get to choose, and your choices get to reflect what truly honors you. And I know that can be scary and sound really bold when all that's been mirrored to you is that you deserve less, and that you shouldn't feel special enough to believe that you deserve better. And that is not your fault, and it will never be your fault. And if there's anything that you will take away from this, please understand that no matter the circumstance and no matter what people desperately need out of you, your consent always matters. Make sure that it honors you.